We are going to go ahead and get started. So thank you guys for coming. There you go. Get excited. We'll get everybody quieted down a little bit here. Got a lot of stuff to go over, so I'm going to move fast through some of it. But there's just a lot of stuff. Afterwards, we have a follow-up class to have questions and answers for some of the we have the office meeting from 9 to 10, then from 10 to 11. If you want to stay after, we have some buyer's agency questions and things like that. Oh, sorry about that. So we'll have that available. I was when we were setting up, but just now I made myself live. So we got a lot of stuff to hit. We got some market predictions. We got some new stuff coming out. We got some other things. And then also we'll have some time to hit some buyer compensation procedures in here, but some of the detailed what if questions and all the other scenarios, we're going to save that for afterwards. So thank you guys for coming out. Excited to get started. First, we have some new people to welcome to the team. So out of Port Orange, we have Dave, and Orman, we have Kathy and Kevin, Jan, and then we have a new staff assistant as well, Brianna. So we'll welcome all of those. Are any of the new people here? Any of these people here? There you go. All right. Yes. Thank you for coming. A couple shout outs I want to throw out there. Our caravan feedback success. Trina had her house on the caravan, got a $20,000 price reduction. So good job. That's part of what that's for. Kathy team won the Choice Awards for the 2024 Daytona Choice Awards for Best Realtor. So give them a round of applause. Andy Jaworski reached the Bronze Miracle Agent status with over 500 donations to the Children's Miracle Network. So congratulations. So buyer's agents agreements getting signed with little resistance. That's good. That's good. Mike gave me a few stats from his team. Some of you guys might want to share as well. But Mike, if you don't mind sharing for a second, how's it going with you guys?
Yeah, so we implemented probably 2 weeks prior to the 17th, and run into say maybe 75 buyers showings and stuff. So out of those 75, I think 27 are BBAs. A lot of them are touring agreements. I think we've only had one person actually decline it on site at a
Okay. So basically only one person's totally declined it. Like if you didn't get them to sign it before you showed up, you're popping it back out when you get there and say, hey, we got to sign this. All of those people are signing it except for one.
We've had some that so we're kind of doing a shortage where we have some agents, like I don't have any standard operating procedure right now. So we have some agents just strictly doing BBAs. We have some agents just strictly doing tour agreements. So I'm trying to gather some data to see kind of what works best. But we've had some agents that tried the BBA and had kind of like,
downgrade.
Yeah, downgraded the touring.
Okay, so he had some people, he doesn't have a standard practice yet. They're trying to see what's working, which probably similar with a lot of you. He's had some people have to downgrade to a touring agreement, but still they're getting them all signed for the most part. So hopefully you guys are all experiencing something similar. Let me see a nod of heads. We getting any major resistance from anybody? No? Okay. Good. That's what I was hoping and expecting to see. Uh-huh.
And she said, well, those people that don't want to pay for the commission, whatever the compensation.
Just not going to show that one. Yeah, we'll talk about that later, so that'll be good to get into. Also want to share another thing is nearly half of our agents, GCI is up over last year at the same time. So, congratulations to everybody there. Anybody else have a shout out or any good success story that they want to share? Go ahead.
I had my caravan through the beachside listing, and everyone said I should lower it to 550, and we closed on that for that price.
Oh, and that's the house you had for a while, right? Okay. So a little power here. This is a great thing as well. So how long had you been working on selling that listing? It was a hard one. A year and 2 months after the caravan got it down to the price, was able to show all these people came in, got the price reduction, got it sold in like a 10, 15-day closing, and now it's finally behind her. She's cashed her check. It's cleared. Everything's done. So good. So it is a valuable tool, especially as we're going into this market. So, we do want to keep that participation and people using it. Anybody else have any success stories they want to share before we move on? Go ahead.
That one line dropped the price and now it's under contract. I
Oh.
don't know if it's going to close.
Good. There's another one. Good. So Gianna had one also drop the price, and she's got it under contract as well. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about today, how we have to communicate with our sellers, how we're going to have to communicate with buyers, how we're going to have to do things, how we're going to have to deal with the market. So a few more shout outs in our KB Core system. We had text, we had Travis, Tony, and Dave with the top 3 texters with a total of 730 texts sent out. Tony, O'Keer, and Jackie were the top 3. And these aren't just their totals, it's everybody's. But a total of 91,000 emails we sent out last month through the system. So most of you don't like using that phone system, so it's only probably if it comes in on a smart number or you're doing whatever. But we had 41 minutes, but our top people are Dave, Amy, and Paula. So congratulations, guys. And what I want to do is take a second. I want you guys to remember, value, things that you have to present. To me, it seems like home warranties have gone away. We used to sell a ton of them, and then things changed. And probably for the last 7, 8, 9 years, every year it's less and less and less and less. So I wanted to take this opportunity to give Mike just a minute here to just tell you about the home warranty thing so that you know, because as we're talking buyer representation, a lot of people aren't going to remember home warranties are available. They're not going to know that's an option. So you having these tools in your tool bag, know who to use, know what to do, how to use it, and so forth is going to help you out. So Mike also sponsored our breakfast, so thank you for bringing some snacks in for us there. And Mike, if you'll come around this side just because of the cords, and we have a couple minutes there for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael. I'm here with America's Preferred Home Warranty. I'm sure you guys are excited to hear about, the exciting world of home warranties, but I'd like to start off by saying home warranties are back, right? Especially right now with all the changes within the industry. There's no better time to add something to your tool belt to make you a little bit different, right? Stand out on listings, provide extra value. And that's exactly what this home warranty is, right? So the first thing I want to mention, everybody, is we are going to be Remax branded. I have all of these for everybody. If you guys want them after, come see me. But we are Remax branded to fit your listing packets, to go along with your marketing, right? So we are going to be unison with Remax. And our bread and butter, the biggest reason we are different is because we empower your homeowners and we keep them in the driver's seat the whole time. So normally home warranty companies have contractors you have to work with. We broke that business model. We felt it was broken. So we allow your homeowners to choose their own licensed contractor for any and all repairs, right? This way, Uncle Joe's an electrician, a licensed electrician, and you guys need electrical work done, Uncle Joe can then come out and work on the house. Biggest thing about this is the time it takes to, get an AC fixed. You want it fixed and you want it fixed now. So with our home warranty company, if it goes out on a Friday, you can call somebody Friday, get it fixed Friday, and we'll even pay the contractor directly over the phone, which is awesome. We really try to mitigate the amount of time spent chasing everybody around and getting your AC fixed, right? So another thing I do want to mention is we've expanded from just appliances. So we understand right now technology is developing rapidly. There's new ways to steal information each and every day. I'm sure somebody in here has either had their information stolen or knows somebody who has. So within our warranty, we have a plan built in to help protect the homeowner, and it's the whole household. In case anybody steals personal identity, if they steal their title after closing, there's a team of people ready to go up to bat for them, and they have $1 million coverage limit on that side. So it's giving them 360 degrees worth of protection, appliances and personal identity, which is great. So we also cover every type of new property. We cover single family, condos, townhouses, new construction. Does anybody here work with new construction by chance? Cool. If you guys do, come see me after, because we have a really cool plan. Is giving them 4 years of coverage, opposed to just 1 year, right? Ensuring they're covered for a long amount of time. But one thing I always like to say about home warranties as well is they are here when you least expect it. I never say it's a matter of if something breaks down, it's a matter of when, right? 6 out of 10 homes experience a major breakdown just within those first 6 months. Your home just has to get used to you. I know I just moved in January, 3rd day in, I had all sorts of issues, right? So it definitely does happen. And I also want to let you guys know I'm fully here for you guys Monday to Sunday. Only time I may not answer is Saturday morning if I'm golfing, looking for my balls in the woods. But other than that, I'm fully here for you guys. So Monday to Sunday, I'm truly here. And if anything ever deviates from the plan, that's why I'm here as well. Give me a call and we'll, always go up to bat for you guys. So if you guys need any of these, I'm going to be hanging around after. I'd love to learn more about you guys and see how I can best help you. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So one of the things I'm going to ask Jessica to do is to make us a graphic that says that. So when you work with me as a buyer's agent, this is for people that want to do this. This isn't a requirement. But if you want, how much does a home warranty cost, Mike? Hey, Mike, how much does a home warranty cost for a buyer?
Base price $499.
Okay, so $500. So some of you have a little bit of concern about how to get over that. I got to get somebody to sign an agreement. How do I get them to sign a buyer's agreement, or how do I market, or how do I show? Some of you aren't concerned about that at all. Some others are, right? So one way to do that is you can tell them we put this in a package. So when you buy with me, not only do you get a 1 to 4 year home warranty on your property, you also get identity protection, title protection, blah, 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 blah. All that's included when you sign up to work with me. Okay, so you just pay that out of your commission. I know you're paying it directly. Maybe you can negotiate the deal and get the seller to pay it, and you choose the company and you don't even have to pay it. But the point is, you can start saying, when you buy a home from me, you're getting this, 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 and this. And it just gives you a little bit of extra value for some of you that are struggling with how am I going to create this value, or you just have in your mind that it's going to be hard. It's really not going to be that hard. As we heard from Mike, there was only one person that didn't sign the agreement, and they didn't want to work with that person anyway, so it didn't matter, right? All right. Good. So a couple other vendor updates just want to get. First of all, Mike had a card that he was going to give away from the home warranty company. So we have an Amazon gift card. We're going to have Paul come up and we're going to do a draw in here. Oh, she missed a card. You're late. You don't get in. You're late. You don't get in. Renita Kershaw. And then we also have Motto here. So Motto, do you have any updates you want to give? For the
No, just real quick, because we got a lot going on. Just FYI, Emily Tolbert had sent out a Motto Minute, and she was talking about concessions, and she was talking about buyer compensation. So if you haven't had an opportunity, check out that video. If you have any questions regarding those things, touch base with Emily, Marcy, Lacey, or Paula. Ultimately, concessions are a little bit different than buyer agent commission. So again, just if you have any questions about that, reach out. They also have some flyers they can provide you that talk about the maximum concessions based off profit.
Good. We got great partners here putting tools together to help make things easy for you. So great. So Motto's got a little gift they're giving away as well. And that is going to Angie, or Amanda. I always do that. Even when I read it on the card, I do it to you. All right, and Carrie, I see Carrie here too. Carrie, is there any updates real quick from insurance or anything?
Really just kind of like to touch base. Citizens doing a whole bunch of changes. We're going through all sorts of classes and stuff. That's not to be until October, but they're just trying to make it harder and harder to go with them because they just want to be the one that everybody goes to, which they do just for price. But I've had a lot of good luck with Loggerhead. I think I've spoken to you guys about them in the past. They'll take the older roofs, they'll take older tile roofs. They are requiring inspections, but I got them to approve a 23-year-old shingle roof. Now, it did still have 5 years life, but they took it. Also, I know I've run into a lot of issues for closings where the seller's not willing to do the new hot water heater or get the new electrical panel. They've been really good about just a receipt. So as long as the buyer buys that hot water heater and can show a receipt, they don't have to show it installed. The 4-point doesn't have to be updated. So they've been the most broad-minded, I guess, since everything's gone down with insurance. So if you have an issue or you think of something, when you're like, man, it just seems like, I should be able to get it to close, let me know, give me a call, and I can always look at it. And then once I go through all the citizens updating next meeting, and the one after that, I'll get you guys updated. But I've got $25.
All right, and that goes to Mike Gagliardi. So congratulations. All right, well, thank you guys. Appreciate all that. Great vendors that we have supporting us, great partners in the business to help us get deals together, to get them closed. So make sure you're using them, make sure you're trying them, rely on them. Don't just rely on them and take all the information. If you're going to take stuff from them, give them stuff back, right? So appreciate you guys supporting them and appreciate all they do for us. We're going to breeze through some of these, but we got a lot of birthdays. So happy birthday to everybody on there, including Marcy with Mono. A lot of anniversaries on there. You notice there's 21 years, 33 years, 24 years, 8 years. So some big numbers on there. And then now I have a few topics like I like to typically go through. So we're going to hit these, and I got a lot of information. I'm going to try to go through it to keep us on time, keep us on track, and we'll have times for you to ask questions and so forth. So I thought I'd start off with the worst sounding stuff first, and we'll go up from there. So last year for NAR statistics, 47% of realtors closed 0 sales last year. Okay, yeah, 47% closed 0 sales. 27% of the agents aren't sure if they'll be in the business next year. Okay, Home sales haven't been significantly lower than they are right now since 1995. Thanks, I'm done. I'll see you guys. Okay. So anyway, so I wanted to put some things into perspective because a lot of times we let a bunch of shit get into our head. Does that make sense? So we got to sometimes filter through that, get through that, and figure out what to do. So with us, and we actually have some friends of mine and some legacy agents and so forth, or our numbers would even be lower, but less than 10% of our agents had 0 sales last year. Okay. And I would say it's actually probably like 2 or 3. So we're doing way better than the realtor average or what's going on there with the National Association of Realtors. Or about 50% of our agents are doing better than they did last year, with some people doing 2 and 3 times better than they were doing the year before. Okay. Also, we still have the most productive group of agents in the area, and then RE/MAX has the most productive group of agents in the world. So I want you guys to give yourself a big round of applause, because it's easy to feel the strain. It's easy to hear the stuff out there. It's easy to get all of this stuff sucked into your head, but you have to still realize that you're surrounded by the best of the best. You didn't get your real estate license just to, hang out and do nothing. You want to surround yourself by people that have the same goals, the same plans, and are working just as hard as you do. Does that mean they're not going to have struggles? Does that mean they're not going to have bad years? Does that mean you're not going to second guess yourself? No, we're sales. We're an emotional roller coaster, right? So literally, you guys do it. I do it as well. And I'll have you guys call me. You'll call me on a Monday. I don't even know. I might even just get out of this business. And then on Saturday, I got 4 sales going. I don't even know what I'm doing, Walter. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I love this business. So this is what it's constantly like, up and down. And so I wanted to put that stuff into perspective, because we have to look at trends and big pictures, not what you're feeling like today, right? Not what you felt like just yesterday, but where are we going? What's the light at the end of the tunnel? How are we going to get there? And who's really in control? The fact of the matter is, homes sell every year, and they're not going to stop selling, okay? This is the worst that it's been. Well, it's worse than it's been in 40 years, okay, for number of home sales. The benefit is home prices are higher, okay? So the commissions are actually higher than they were before. So it all balances itself out. It's not going to get any worse, but all you have to worry about is how it's going to get better. You have to stick to it. You have to focus through it. And remember that you're in control. Okay, who's in control? That's right. You are in control. That's a good thing you didn't say me. That was a bad question. Huh? You guys are in control of your own business, because people are always moving. So you have to remember that. Yes, sometimes you have circumstances in your life that you need to slow down. That's okay too, right? That's okay if you have the circumstances, but you're in control. And I just want you to realize and to memorize that, or to know that. So I want to show you, this is the last 40 years from 1974 to 2024. These are the national home sales, okay? All the home sales each year. So you'll see it was at a low in 1974, went up to a peak. Like I've always told you, they usually last about 10 years. Then down in the 80s, it was really low. Then we had a long 20-year peak, and then it dropped in this 2008, 7 and 8 time, little upspurt, and then dropped again. Then we had a nice 10-year peak, and we just dropped right now. What you'll see is most of the drops are 2 to 3 years. Believe it or not, we're already almost 3 years into this. So we're almost even at the end of it. And some of us are just starting to feel, wow, what the hell's going on? It's not like it was not like it was a couple years ago. So I just wanted you to put that in perspective and see. This is what it looks like from 1995 to today. And that's why I said the only time it's actually been significantly worse was in 1995. 2008 is slightly worse than it is now. And then there we are right now. So I don't say that to depress you. Hopefully I say that to motivate you, and you realize, hey, there's a trend, there's a pattern. If you just forget what you're feeling like, and you forget what you don't want to do, and you just trust the system and you just follow your plan, things work out. It's the people that can't commit and can't follow the plan are the ones that struggle, because we're on the bottom side of an upcoming market. And this is the time for you to go back and take market share. Okay. People are going to get out of the business. What's going to happen with their business that they got out of? People are going to retire. They're going to say, I don't want to go through this. They're going to get out and retire. Some people might even be in our office retiring. You should be connecting with them, right? How am I going to take that market share that they're going to leave? That's what I want you to leave here thinking about today. There's market share that's going to be abandoned, and nobody deserves it more than you guys deserve it. So make sure you're focused on it and you go out there and get it. Now, here are the NAR projections for 2025. They're predictions. I don't know if they're there. So it shows a steady increase, which is a significant increase in home sales starting from this next quarter going on. That's also what Brian Buffini and a couple other people have been predicting since February of this year. They said at the end of the year, the last quarter of the year is actually going to probably be our busiest and most productive quarter for the year, which is the opposite because our first quarter of the year was terrible, wasn't it? The first quarter was really bad. The middle was okay. And then it's starting to slow down a little bit right now. And I'll show you that. It's supposed to pick back up. Will it or will it not? I don't know. But will it eventually pick back up? Yeah, and we'll talk about that. One reason is 70 million people will retire by 2030. 70 million people are retiring, which is turning over $30 trillion in wealth from that generation to the next generation. So there's a turnover. The largest it's ever been in our country's history is turning over, where their older people are giving $30 trillion to younger people. Somebody's going to buy a house with that money. They're going to buy some other stupid stuff, but they're going to also buy a house with it, okay? Housing units are actually, and unfortunately, I left this chart out. Housing units are still at an all-time low. Our inventory is still lower than it's ever been. In fact, in the 90s, before, inventory was way higher. Okay, all of those other dips, the inventory was significantly higher. So we have a very unique situation this time, is because we have less houses available still than we have household formations happening. What we really have is an affordability problem. And that's something you're going to have to learn to talk about your sellers as you get through pricing and when to accept offers and what to do. Or should they offer compensation? We have an affordability problem. So are you going to make it harder for somebody to buy a home, or do you want to make it easier for somebody to buy a home? Okay, these are some of the questions you're going to have to be talking to them about that. Any questions before I go on? Comments, thoughts? No? Good. So what I want to do, there's going to be people quitting. You're going to hear talks about it. You're going to hear people crying. You're even maybe crying from time to time. So I want you to remember, when you're here, you're going to work harder when others want to quit. Okay, you're going to go take that market share that other people are abandoning. Okay, go get it. Look for people retiring. Look for people that are getting out. Look for people that are whining and crying. Go take the business. You need to develop your skills. You're going to have to learn how. But look at this. In the last 10 years, who's gotten their real estate license in the last 10 years? Raise your hand. Okay, that's a lot of people in the room. Over half the people in the room. Guess what? None of those people have experienced a down market. So now you have to know what it's like to talk to a seller and say, your house hasn't sold. Still hasn't sold. Nobody's came to see it. Another open house isn't going to help. Yeah, they just don't want it. Okay. So you're going to have to learn how to deal with some of that and not beat yourself up. What happened is you came in at a fairly time that kept progressing up. Oh, it's good. It's good. I'm good. I'm good. It was success, 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 success. Even though it was a roller coaster, the overall feeling was success, success, success. And now you're like, oh, I'm a failure. So this is what I hear from a lot of you sometimes. Oh, none of my listings are selling. They will sell. You just got to learn how to talk to them. You got to learn how to work through it. And you also have to learn how to not take it personally. It's not your house. You didn't control everything. Because if you had the ability to control everything, could you find a price to sell it? Yeah, we can always find a price to sell it, right? So you could do it. There's just sometimes things that you're just going to have to deal with. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer. So you have to develop those skills. You have to focus on the results, not all of the BS, not the little silver bullets, not this is working, not this, not all the stuff that doesn't have anything to do that's not selling. Your results, your success, that's the things to focus on. Those are the things to market as well, your results, because that's what people are going to want to see. You also be doing all that, you become better while the other people quit. And then you're going to, because you became better, you'll be able to do what you don't, you'll be able to do what you don't want to do. Just do what needs to be done, okay, when everybody else is quitting. We don't want, think about, has anybody ever had a puppy before? Or you are a little baby or something like you don't want to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and take care of them when they're there, but you got to do it, right? Well, this is the time that we're in there. There's stuff you don't want to do. You're just going to have to do it. So do it, get through it, focus it, let the other people quit, take their market share. So I want a little round of applause. Let's take their business that they're leaving. Because there's only two choices. They're taking yours or you're taking ours. And you're not taking ours, okay? So here I want you to see, this is some stuff to help you as you talk to sellers and to get through. So this is very interesting. This is months inventory of listings, okay? Number of active listings. You see this top chart, it's going up. So up here. Number of these listings are going up. We knew that. We've told you that for a year and a half. I've been telling you they're going to continue to go up, and they are. I didn't even have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. Sales, as we talked about, the end of last year and the beginning of this year dropped, picked back up, and leveled off a little bit. Here's one of my concerns for right now. This is why I wanted to have this talk, to give you a little light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, pendings are down. Okay, so you see pendings went up, 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 and then started going down. A lot of you have had pendings that were several months old and are just now closing. That's why our closings weren't affected. But our next month or so are going to be affected because there's not the pendings. So that's why we have to be focused on getting price reductions. We have to get focused on getting these agreements signed. We have to be focused on getting out there because the pendings are down right now, but all predictions and all indicators say the market's doing what? It's going to be going back up. So you need as many listings as you can get. Why do we need listings? Because listings attract buyers too, right? So the more listings you get, the more buyers you get. The more both of those you get, the more sales you get. Are all of them going to sell? No. I'm going to give you an interesting stat that most of you are going to disagree, but if you go back, you look at the MLS, you'll see it. It didn't always happen to you guys. It happens to those other people, but it's still it's a trend. It's a national stat. In any market throughout history, 30% of the listings expire. 30% fail to sell in even the hottest market because there's always somebody that just wants to sell too high. That makes sense? And so there's always people failing. It's just now, sometimes it's going to be you, and you got to learn to deal with that. You just, some listings aren't going to sell. That's all right. Let them move on. Let me find another one and let me get it sold. So don't get caught up in the BS. If you start noticing you don't have pendings or whatever right now, just figure out how you're going to go get some. Meet with me, meet with Amy, get with your partners, go talk to your database, go find some new customers, just make it happen. You're the only one that can control it. I can't do it for you. Diana can't do it for you. Right? Other people can't do it for you. Only you can do it for yourself. So you're going to have to take advantage of that and not feed into the BS if you hear other people crying. And I'm going to tell you what I want you to do, whether it's in our office. So if you're in our office and you're sensitive, I'm sorry. Okay. But in the office or outside the office, if you're just complaining and Debbie Downer and whatever else, it's okay that you do that. Just don't do it around us. And just let us put your hand up and say, you got to take that shit out of here. Okay? Get that shit out of here because I don't want to hear it. Because there's going to be some of that out there. Get it out. I got a plan. I'm going to follow it. I don't care how I feel. I'm going to trust my plan and I'm going to follow my plan because it's not going to stay down for 20 years, right? It's going, and all the indicators say it's coming up. So if I have a bad month or two, get over it. I don't want to hear your shit. Take it somewhere else. So don't get offended if I say that. Or if you hear me doing it, because we're all skeptical, don't be afraid to tell me, Walter, get out of here. Okay. Absorption rates. So I want you to see this. This is absorption rate. Who knows what absorption rate over how many months is a buyer's market? Over 6 months is a buyer's market. So in our area, I told you we were going to get there. We finally have gotten there. I said by the end of the year, I thought we'd be at 8 or 9 months. All the indicators are saying sales are going to pick up at the end of the year. So that could be great for us. But so we have over 6 months inventory in our board right now. And we have a list to sales price ratio of just under 93%. These stats are important to know when listing a house. Now, I wouldn't lose a house over price or commission right now because I know that we know the market's going to turn and we know we just need the opportunity at bat. Does that make sense? So take the listing, and I hate to say take it at any price. I don't mean take it at any price. Anything is justifiable reason that has some kind of justifiable way of doing it. Take that listing, work with them, especially if they're motivated, but make sure you haven't misled them. Say, look, it's a buyer's market. You need to expect this to happen. Okay? You need to expect you're probably not going to get full price. If you already know they're listing high, set them up. Look, the average house on the market is getting 7% less than the list price. And you're priced above the average. So you need to expect 20-25% off this thing, okay? But set some of those expectations, use some of these charts to have those conversations so that way you feel confident, you feel empowered, you're able to get the price reductions you need, and you're not just avoiding the seller. You're not walking through Publix and you're like, oh shit, there's my seller. I don't want to deal with this right now, okay? Right. So we don't want that. We want him to be like, he's going to ask me for a price reduction again. Geez, let me get out of here, okay? All right, so here's a couple other things that I wanted to share just to put localized markets in place. And this is why it's important for you guys to understand how to identify localized markets. Okay, localized markets could be a subdivision, that's hyper-local. It could be a city, which is going to be local. I was using originally all of Daytona. Well, here's the interesting thing. If we look at Port Orange, there is under 5 months inventory available in Port Orange, which means it's what type of market, a buyer or sellers? Sellers market still in Port Orange. There's more demand than there are sales. However, it's still rising up. So it's important not to get too aggressive, but you can be a little more flexible there, can't you? You can use that information how you need to use it. Now look at Ormond. It's just over 5 months. Okay, so Ormond's also what? Okay, great. Now, Somebody might as well set a bomb off in 32118. So, 32118, condos are hard to sell. We sell a lot of condos. You know, 1 out of every 2 condos involves one of our agents. Okay, 1 out of every 2 condo sales involves one of our agents. So when 32118 hurts, we hurt. Does that make sense? So we have in here the average, it's almost 14 months inventory when you take a condo. So if you're listing condos, you have to be prepared and go in and say that, look, like we have to be prepared. Do you know what we're going up against? I'll take your listing. I'll work with you, sell, because I don't know which one's going to sell. In fact, there's 1,100 other ones sitting over here wondering which one's going to sell. But you have to understand it's 14 months inventory. What do you think the list to sales ratio is in 32118? 88%. 88% original list to sales price ratio. So when you have that offer sitting there and the people like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to take it over $5,000. I might not pay that buyer's broker commission. You might need to pull out one of these charts, roll it up, slap them across the face 2 or 3 times, unroll it back and say, let's look at this again. Okay, we're going to have to think about it. We're going to have to use these tools so that we can be effective to get things done. Because what matters to people is results. Being nice, and I'm not saying be rude or mean to them, but being nice isn't just enough. Does that make sense? So just being pleasant, a people pleaser, that's not going to get you anywhere. Having some data, having some results, having some confidence, and making things happen is what's going to get you another referral. That's when everybody else in the building, if you sell something in Daytona Beach Shores, you better believe everybody knows your name. Okay? So promote that. If you get a sale in Daytona Beach Shores, whether it's a buyer or seller, promote it. Because there's so many people not selling. They're going to, how did you do it? What did you do? Well, don't miss the opportunity to build yourself up. Well, you know, with RE/MAX, we're in over 100 countries around the world. We have international branding. We're the most trusted real estate company. We're the #1 brand. We have the most productive agents locally in and around the world. We're the only company to sell over 2 million transactions in a year. We were the first company to sell over 1 million transactions. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on, even if you've never sold a house, just using the RE/MAX stuff. Okay, wow, now it makes sense why you sold that. Yeah. We have an in-house marketing person. We have an in-house mortgage company. And we have tools that can do it. We have home warranties that we use to reel people in. I mean, what do you want to do? So anyway, what you have to be prepared for is homes are going to stay on the market longer still. Inventory is going to still increase. You need to know how to set those proper expectations with sellers. These are the skills you need to be working on now. With us, on your own, you're not going to like everything I say. I get it. So find somebody that you like what they say. It's not going to hurt my feelings, okay? Find something that works for you if you don't want to use what we believe will work. Understand those market trends and how to present them. Know how to pick the correct entry price into the market so that you are getting the other homes to help sell yours. You realize that every time a home is listed, you either help sell somebody else's or they help sell yours. Now, which one do you want to be? Yeah, I'm not in the business of just like having houses for sale. You know, I like to sell them too every once in a while. So you got to focus on that. So the next thing is don't lose motivated listings, okay? Justifiable listings over commission or price. And what I mean by that, don't get caught up in all this commission. If they don't want to offer commission, just set the expectation they're probably going to have to pay it. But if you don't want to offer it, we'll deal with that when it comes in. My recommendation is you probably don't even have to bring it up. Just do your listing presentation the way you always have, which is what I've recommended. You're probably not going to get the objection. They're probably not going to bring it up. But if you get one of those diehard people that says, I'm not doing this, say, well, that's all right. People do what they don't want to do sometimes. So let's just go ahead and list it the way you want. And then you can pay it later. Maybe they'll get lucky that they don't have to pay it. It's possible. But we know from the stats and the way the affordability is built right now, they're probably going to have to pay it. Just don't fight that fight right then. Does that make sense? Get the listing, fight the fight after you got the listing. It's easier for them to say no and pick somebody else that's not going to create resistance than it is for you to create a whole bunch of resistance right there. Does that make sense? Okay. So the other thing that's super, super important for you right now, it's always important, I've preached it for 25 years, is to build your customer base, which means always meeting new people. You always have to be meeting new people. If you're not meeting new people, you got to do it. You're not going to probably meet new people in the office. You're probably not going to meet new people in your house, okay? Go out somewhere where you can meet new people. Some people are really good, like Agnes can meet people in the grocery line. She's one of those people, she'll be in the grocery line and come back with a sale. Not everybody's like that, so go sit at an open house. You're better off sitting at an open house than not, okay? Meet people, put them in your database, then stay in contact with them. And then how do you market to the people? You guys have heard me say this when we did the whole marketing thing. People buy the result, not the product, right? You buy a drill because you need a hole, not because you want to drill, right? So people are going to buy the result. You guys have the results. RE/MAX has the results. You have everything you need. You just need to be marketing results. That's why I got so frustrated over all those years when people are like, I sold the home in one day. It's like, tell them how you did it. Tell them those results. Tell them what they wanted, okay? So focus on the results that they want. They want to move in this challenging market. They want to buy a home with these high interest rates. I can help you. Sell them ways that they can see themselves accomplishing the goal that they want to accomplish with you being in the middle. I used a home warranty to get a property and it's stress-free. You don't have to worry about things breaking. You don't have to worry about your budget going. I used Mono Mortgage and we used down payment assist, the Hometown Heroes to get low down payment, or we got the best interest rate, or we did this, or we use seller buy down. There's so many things you can do. You just need to be able to focus on what the result is going to be and not just the features of the house or not just the features of you yourself. And then the last thing is people buy from people they like and people they trust. Okay. See, most of you are already likable. There's maybe one or two that's not so likable. Most of you are likable. Okay. And most of you are trustworthy, or you're not going to have success in the business. So you have to be likable and you have to be trustworthy. Use your social media, use your interactions, use your public display to show that you're likable and that you're trustworthy to the people that you fed into your database and the people that you've had. I'm not recommending that you put these big posts out about buyer's agency and all this stuff. I don't think most people know about it, to be honest with you. It's not as prevalent as you think is out there. I mean, people do know about it. It's not a secret, but they're not laying up. If you're not selling your house today, you're not laying up at bed and what are they talking about, this buyer? It's only a few people that might be in the process. So why clutter your whole database sharing all this information? What you just need to do is, look, I'm a trusted resource that's been in the business with the #1 trusted brand, the #1 most recognized brand, the #1 most productive company. If you have questions about the market, if things don't make sense, who should you call? You guys, exactly. I was waiting. It's hard for me not to say that. So here's something you're going to see from RE/MAX, and I want you guys to use this. I want you to be loud about this. I want you to be proud about this. Year after year after year, you know, we get voted as the most trusted brand. In order to be able to use that in all of your marketing and promote it, it's done by these third-party companies. You have to pay them a lot of money to do it. RE/MAX is paying them to be able to use the branding to show that we've been voted in US and Canada is the most trusted real estate brand. Put it in your email signatures. Put it on your social media. Put it on your buyer's flyers. People want to work with people they can trust. Make sure that you're telling them that not only you're trustworthy, your company's trustworthy, the most trustworthy in the country and the US, because there's going to be some people that are skeptical and they're going to run into some bad agents out there during this transition. So I would focus that. I would keep promoting it. We've won it year after year after year. You'll see more marketing coming out from RE/MAX with that. Take advantage and use it. Any questions before I go on from here? Because we got some different stuff now. Some of that information helpful? Okay, good. We have some software changes coming. I've been telling you guys for years where I think the industry is going and things that we need to do. We also have contracts that we've been under. So, you know, just our back office software, just, I mean, so you guys know, we pay about $3,000 a month just for the back end software to be able to run it. And it's not what I would consider the greatest. I want to upgrade it, but it takes time to get there to be able to upgrade it. Well, our contract's coming up for expiring right at the perfect time. So we're integrating with RE/MAX is put together bold trails with KV Core to be able to do from end-to-end contact. From the very first, we already got the front side, all the way to the very end. The great thing about this is it's going to give us tons of data and tons of analytics all across the country we'll have access to. So all across the country, we'll be able to use this information, just like I did those other charts, how long homes are on the market, how many showings they have to get to be sold, how many leads get generated for each thing. We're going to have tons of fantastic data. RE/MAX is investing heavily, heavily, heavily into it because they want to make sure we have the best information out there so that we can be the fastest and we can have the best results. So perfect timing because our contract's coming up for result. 2025 is when this will roll out. However, in October, you're going to get a little free tools kicked your way or access to a tool. I don't know enough about it to say everything, but however many of you remember me talking about Folio probably like 7, 8, 9 years ago. Folio, or do you know what Folio is? So Folio, I'll tell you why I stopped promoting it, but why I think it'll work really good with where we're going now. Folio is AI built into like a Gmail account. And then it reads your stuff for your transaction and automatically categorizes all your emails into a folder. Well, that will now sync with your KB Core database and your transaction management database and our backend payment database and all of that stuff, so that we'll be able to keep all of that data the way we need to. So I don't hear these horrible responses when we have a problem. We'll have a problem from somebody and I say, hey, well, let me see the text message you had on it. Well, I don't got a lot of memory on my phone, Walter. I just, I get the smallest phone, so I got to delete my text. You shouldn't be deleting. You got to get the bigger phone. Spend the extra $200 if you're in business. Get the bigger phones. You need to keep years worth of every text you should have on there. Okay, don't ever get rid of them. Keep them all. Okay, at least for 5 years. So a lot of that stuff will be kept in there, so we'll have the information. Usually, we're really good. We've won everything that we've gone up against because we're good at arguing those things and so forth, and we have most of the data. But more of the communication, more of the data we have, the better. This system's going to put all of that together from end to end, from meeting the person all the way to paying them, all the recruiting. So the stats in there on you guys are going to be really good. If you're looking to build teams, we can help you recruit people better for teams. We can also bring other people into the office. So it's going to be a great system. It's going to roll out next year. With that, it's something new for people to learn. Less for you guys to learn, more for our staff in the back end. But hopefully you'll take advantage of some of these tools and jump into them and use them full force. That's what I would recommend. I think you'll get the most out of it. Who heard about MaxText Concierge? Okay, good. Who's using MaxText Concierge? A couple of you, good. I would recommend using it. Basically, they're using non-Remax listing leads, so they're not your listings that they're taking the leads from. And they're generating those leads and trying to deliver you a warm, ready-to-go person, okay? So they've already followed up with them. They've already talked to them. The person says they're already interested. They had to do this for a couple reasons, because a lot of you are terrible at following up with leads, okay? And then where does that customer service complaint come to? Comes back under Remax. Okay, I left 3 messages and nobody calls me back. And you're like, yeah, but that was a crappy little place in Bunnell. I didn't really want to go all the way out there. Well, why do you have that in your zip code? Okay, why are you covering that area? Okay, why didn't you take it and give it to somebody else? There's other people that would love to have sold that crappy little place in Bunnell. Okay, so instead of just saying, I don't really want to get that, or that looks like a pain, you should still accept them, go through, refer them out to somebody else. But since across the country, we've been so terrible at that, not just us, but across the country, they put it in there and they found that they're 7 times more likely to get response. Or 81% of the leads they found they were able to get 2-way conversations with. Okay, and I hear from you guys all the time, oh, there's no way to get a hold of anybody. But they got 81% of the leads, they had 2-way conversations. 54% of the leads they were able to turn over as a qualified lead that was a ready partner to work with. Does that mean they're going to close? No, but it was a person willing to talk to you, a person that might be looking for something either now or 6 months or whenever down the road. So it's a qualified lead. It's a new person to add into your database. Okay. 77% of the referrals through Max Center have expressed an interest to purchase within less than 6 months. Okay. So they're good, valid leads that it should take away from some of you guys complaining. I don't want to have to call them, or I don't want to follow up with them, or I don't want to be intrusive, or I'm not going to call 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, or I'm not going to do whatever, or I'm not going to spend the money to market to them, or I'm not going to do whatever. It will do that stuff for you, and it'll give you leads back that we've been missing, makes our overall Remax picture better. I mean, think about this now. If you're a buyer's agent, or you're a buyer, and now people are asking you to sign contracts to sign for $15,000, to pay them to $15,000 for you to show them a house, and you don't get a call back, right? So it couldn't be a better time that they launched this. I just want you to realize the power of this. Some people may say, well, I don't want to have to pay a referral. Well, they need advertising funds. They need to pay staffs. This is a local US-based concierge, their call center that's calling the people and getting in touch with people as quick as they can, or leads that you are not contacting. So if you're not contacting your leads, they're going to reach out to them. Not your leads from your website, not your leads off of your listings, but leads generated off of IDX leads through Remax.com. If you're not following up with them, then they will, and they're going to try to get somebody to close them, which I think is a good thing. Go.
Can you tell me so I'm gonna help you and show you how they hashtag them? So if you guys are using KB Core, you can decipher who's paying into this program.
Yeah, that's great. So I think you should sign up. Think you should take advantage of it. And if you don't, that's fine. You don't have to. But yeah.
Somebody just asked back here, does it cost money? So it doesn't cost money to enroll. You just have to pay a referral fee.
That's correct. So they're doing all the advertising and marketing, and you pay a 30% referral fee when it closes. Thank you very much for that. So you're not paying anything out of pocket. They're just trying to make sure that we have the best customer service with the best brand, the best follow-up, and the best customer retention out there. One more question? No, no. So it'll be, because that comes through at the office level. Some people would charge more than that, but we charge the 5%. So that's not going to include that. So it'll be whatever your split is with us. You're still just like any other referral. Who gets a referral from somebody? It's going to be the same thing. And 30%, if you guys are out in the referral world right now and know it, it's not bad. So I'm going to say give it a shot. All right, now we want to talk about preparing offers. So we got a lot of stuff to go through. If you have more questions on the concierge, please get with Amy. All right, preparing an offer. Where does buyer's compensation start? Where do you set that? Where does it start for you or anybody else? It starts where? In the BBA agreement, in the buyer brokerage agreement. That's where it starts. Okay, so a lot of people still have a hard time grasping that. Like, where does it actually start? It starts there. So a lot of things don't matter when you totally realize we should have already figured out that you're going to pay this money in there. Yes. That's a BBA, buyer brokerage agreement. There's multiple buyer brokerage agreements. So great. You have a showing agreement, you have an exclusive buyer broker agreement, and then you have a touring agreement. Okay, so we have 3 different types of agreements at different levels, but they're all wrapped into a BBA. Unfortunately, they created all this new terminology for people that have been doing it 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they changed buyer to consumer, and then they changed buyer agency agreement to now whatever else. But it starts in that buyer agency agreement. The buyer, and I want you to watch this word, this is key, because they're actually out there watching for you. Who gets Inman News? The real estate industry, the main news thing. Okay, so there's an interview out there with the attorney that was head of the DOJ, and he says, we are watching and we're just waiting to catch people. Okay, which I thought was the biggest, like what an ass. But anyway, he's like, we're going to look for it. We're trying to find people, and we're going to find people to make examples of. So hopefully it won't be any of you. If it is any of you, I have my ass covered because I've told you here, I've held classes, I've done it. I'm going to be like, what do you want me to do? I said, take them away, please. So I will fight for you and defend you where I can and how I can. But in the end, like if you're not using the tools that are available and you're just doing something stupid, that's on you. Okay. If you're trying as hard as you can and you're doing everything you can, then I'll be there with you, fighting as hard as you can. Well, here's the thing. We haven't gone too far with that. You can ask that at the end because I want to get through this, and at the next portion, you can ask questions. So buyer may request the seller to pay. In our minds, of course, the buyer is going to ask. Okay. But the key thing we have to remember is the DOJ doesn't see it that way. They see it as a buyer signed an agreement to pay you. They know 100% they're paying you. They're expecting to pay you. We all know that they are not expecting you to pay. They don't have the money to pay. The affordability, most of them can't even pay. Okay, so we know that, but the DOJ doesn't get that. They think, well, they already agreed to pay for you, so why would you care? That's why you hear so much out there about it's negotiated at the time of contract, okay? We know that that's going to create all kinds of problems to completely negotiate it at the time of contract, but that's where they're trying to get the industry to go. It may go there, and it may not be a problem at all when it goes there, okay? But I just want you to remember the word may, okay? The buyer may request the seller to pay. And if you know your buyer needs the seller to pay or a seller's broker to pay, who better make sure it's in the contract? Because if it's not requested, it's not obligated. Does that make sense? It has to be in the contract. My buyer is requesting that you pay this compensation. Okay. You got to make sure you're putting it in the contract. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if you have you can kind of get away with the agreement, but it should be the buyer requesting it. Does that make sense? In the contract, which we've created clauses in transaction desks. You just click the button and it fills it in for you. You had a question, Kenny?
Yeah, it's in regard to the May. It says right in our BBA that we have to apply anything from the seller towards what the buyer does.
But what I'm saying is the buyer may not ask the seller to pay it. The buyer may just pay you. That's what the DOJ thinks. I'm just paying you to work with me. So you negotiated $15,000. Here's your check for $15,000. I'm working with you, Candy. Now let's go shop for houses. Does that make sense? That's the way they think it's going to work. Maybe it turns out that way. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying we don't know yet. So we have to tiptoe through a process till we figure out how it's going to work. But it hasn't traditionally worked that way. So it's not that the seller is going to pay it, okay? The buyer may request the seller to pay it or the seller's agent to pay it if they feel they need it and if they feel it's in their best interest, Okay, so that's the stuff. If a buyer requests the seller to pay the compensation, the buyers should include it in the contract and make sure they get the appropriate compensation form filled out. Does that make sense? Because it could be seller or it could be whatever. If the buyer doesn't need the compensation, he wants to pay you directly, that's totally fine. Then you don't need to worry about that step. Okay, we'll take one or two more questions. Go ahead.
What happens if you can't get hold of the listing agent to find out what the compensation agreement says?
Okay, great. What happens if we can't get a hold of the listing? This will be great for afterwards, but I'm going to answer it now. What happens if we can't get a hold of the buyer, the listing agent, to know what the compensation is? It doesn't matter, because where did compensation get agreed to? In the BBA. Okay, so you shouldn't wait. You just submit the offer, and if you know your buyer's asking for it, it's irrelevant whether the seller was offering it or not. It doesn't matter, because what kind of market are we in? I just showed you some charts. You can tell the seller, look, unless you're planning on owning your house for the next 5 years, okay, this is where we are right now. If you want to sell it this year, you need to do it. If we go back to 2021, you might not have to pay this buyer compensation, but we're not in 2021 right now. Right now we're here, okay? There's been, the only time there was less homes sold than right now is in 1995. So I don't know if you want to go back there or not, but you might need to use some of those verbiage. That's why I showed you some of that stuff. Not that I think it's the end of the world, not that I think that we can't win, okay? But because you might need to use some of that to shock somebody, to hit them over the head, to get them to realize they're not on the high horse right now. Does that make sense? So in theory, it doesn't matter if you can get a hold of the listing agent. Write the contract the way you need to write it. Even if they say he's not going to pay compensation. Say, well, that's wonderful. We're just submitting it. If you can know in advance, it's a lot more helpful. Does that make sense? But if you don't know in advance, ask for what you need. Angie?
Seller's paying buyer's broker, if it's broker to broker, I'm just putting the addendum, or am I still writing it on?
You still want to write it on the contract because you're still asking for somebody to pay it. If not, the buyer didn't ask. It's supposed to be part of the buyer's negotiation. So if it's broker to broker, you're still going to say that, because who's got the agreement for compensation? The buyer has an agreement with you written. So what happens is, if the broker's paying it, they're paying it on behalf of the buyer. They're paying the buyer the money for the buyer to pay you the money. Does that make sense? So if the buyer never asked for them to pay you, then that's a problem. The other thing that does is it discloses to everybody, because it should open up the people's eyes, the buyer's eyes, to say, wait a second, you're getting 3% paid? You agreed to do it for 2%. Does that make sense? So if you know you have it in the contract, it's been disclosed to everybody what you're getting paid, and then it should not be more than it's on the side. Or if it is more, that's the person that's in violation. So you guys, as our agents, if you agreed to do it for 2% and the seller's offering 3%, don't ask for more. There is a way to ask for more, but what I'm saying, make sure it matches your buyer's agreement. So unless you modify that buyer's agreement, don't ask for more. Does that make sense? Modify the agreement first, then you could ask for more. So it's going to make it hard to modify the agreements and ask for more, but that's the proper way to do it. That's what I wanted to make sure sunk into everybody, whether you're on the listing side or buying side. Here's a little step. Just like we said, your compensation starts in your buyer agent agreement. You ask for it in the contract. And if it's needed and you've asked for it in the contract, then you get the appropriate compensation form. Okay. It's just a 3-step process. Just remember those 3 steps. That's where you'll do it at. Same thing with whether it's seller compensation or broker to broker compensation. Okay.
If they don't know if it's broker to broker or seller to buyer's broker, in the verbiage, what would you like them to put in there? Broker to broker?
So great question then. It doesn't matter. All you got to do is say that the seller agrees. Well, you could change that part. The agent will come back to you and counteroffer you. Well, it's broker to broker compensation. Okay, well, I couldn't get a hold of you because you haven't answered your phone for 3 days. Don't write it that way in the remarks. I couldn't get a hold of the buyer, this listing agent for 3 days, so I wrote it this way. But anyway, that you're going to have to be responsive. We created a tool for you guys to be able to be responsive, but not everybody has that, and so forth. So if you can't get it in,
Pay attention to how it's written. You might have to change it.
you need to make sure you got the appropriate thing, whether it's going to be buyer or whether it's going to be broker or whether it's going to be seller. Okay, those are the only 3 people paying it. The buyer's paying you and not asking for any help. The listing broker's paying you and they had to be asked to pay you, because otherwise they don't need to ask to pay. Or the seller's paying you and the seller had to be asked to pay you, because they're asking to pay for what's in that agreement. Does that make sense? We're asking to pay what you agreed to with the buyer on behalf for the buyer. One last question. Go ahead.
In the section 20 of the offer, we're gonna refer to see broker to broker agreement attached.
You could do that, or you could just say, if you already know what it depends on how you're negotiating. So that'll be a good question for afterwards, because it could be a million different things. It just depends on the scenario. You could simply say, for the states of it there, that the seller agrees to pay buyer broker compensation. Okay, and then you could get the form and sign the form, and then it all matches up, and that's fine. We just need them to ask. Does that make sense? It's a little better to be more specific, agrees to pay 3% in compensation or whatever else, but we will have the other forms backing up the percentages and everything can match. So the key is we just want to ask that somebody's going to pay. You could even write seller or seller's broker agrees to pay buyer's agent's compensation in there. You don't have to, because the percentage is going to come out later. It would be good to have the percentage in the contract. I would recommend it to be in the contract. Okay. But you're going to have forms that are going to match later. So in a way you can kind of get around it, but I would recommend putting an amount in, and that amount should be what's in your what? Buyer broker agreement. Nope. I see timing, guys. Go ahead, John.
Where I put in there that they pay the whole amount to Remax signature.
That's right. Yeah. They'll technically be paying it to Remax. That's right. Good.
Even on my next contract.
We'll look at that, and we'll look at that too with you. That sounds right. That sounds good. And we have a whole hour afterwards for very specific questions. So I'm going to skip on to the next one. You guys can stay, and we'll go over any scenario you want to go over. I just want to hit these things relatively quickly. So preparing a listing. This is where you decide with the seller if you're going to offer compensation, if it makes sense for them to offer compensation. In our current market and in most situations, to be able to make it easy for them to sell to the most amount of buyers, you're probably going to offer compensation. There may be situations where they don't. Maybe you're underpricing a house. It's an investor house. I've done 4 of them this year. They're investor houses. We didn't even get them to the MLS. I just emailed out my investors. They paid it. I was, some of them were realtors that bought them, and I didn't offer them compensation. Okay. So it may not make sense that they have to do that. So you're going to make that decision whether it should be considered or not. So you make that in the listing agreement. Whether it's considered or not, the buyers may request. So that's what I want you to, even if your seller says, I'm not going to pay it, and you say, that's okay, you don't have to pay compensation to a buyer's agent. We need to prep them to expect that almost every offer is going to come in out asking for it. So I'm not going to force you to do it. I just want you to realize that expect the offers to come in, and we'll deal with it at that time. My recommendation is try to get them to offer something, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but don't lose the listing over them not offering something, because they're going to, if nobody's buying their house and it's not selling, they're eventually going to come to a realization they have to either lower the price or offer compensation, and which might be easier, offering the compensation before we lower the price. If a buyer requests that the compensation, if the buyer requests compensation in the agreement, the buyer's agent should use the appropriate form. So they should be requesting it from you if you're the listing agent, sending you over the appropriate form after it's negotiated. So after it's been requested in the contract, you come to an agreement, then let's get the form signed showing who's going to pay me. You technically don't need the form signed because it is in the contract you're going to get paid, and your contract's with the buyer, so you already have a contract. But I would recommend you get that signed because it's an extra layer of protection. It has the arbitration agreements in there and mediation agreements. So I would recommend that you use that extra layer of protection on everyone. Any questions? Mm-hmm.
On the contract, on paragraph 20, we have all those boxes where you can check for addendums. Can you just check the other or reserved box and put some sort of comment that your compensation agreement is attached or something like that?
You could, in theory, that doesn't necessarily become part of the contract. That's why we've mentioned that you're going to pay it, because your buyer's agreement is not part of the contract. Okay. That's where you're getting your money from. So if the seller doesn't pay you, you're supposed to go collect it from the buyer. Does that make sense? So your agreement to get paid is with the buyer. The buyer's agreement's with the seller or the seller's broker to pay you on their behalf. Does that make sense? So it's not technically part of the contract. I don't think it matters if you make it other and you want to include it, but technically it's a separate agreement that you're entering into with another person to make sure that this person's going to get the money so that they can then pay you. Does that make sense? But in the end, we already decided who was paying us, which is the buyer's agent. I mean, the buyer, sorry. The buyer's agreement is what dictates that the buyer's paying us. That's what we've established. That's why I wanted you to really sink that in. It's set in the buyer's agreement. Then after that, we have other ways we might get it paid. Okay, that's fine. But the person who's actually responsible for ensuring you get paid is the person you signed that contract with. And then this ancillary contract with the seller is kind of covering them to make them feel like, hey, you didn't have to pay. Look, I got this contract from the seller that he's going to pay me. So we got this all together.
Have to sign before you take them out to show 10 million houses.
Talking about the buyer agency agreement? Yes. Before you go show any house, that's right. You first meet them, you just shove it in their face.
Say, if they pay, you will not have to pay.
That's right. Exactly.
They said, what if we just?
We're going to do that afterwards, if you don't mind. Remember that, and we'll do that afterwards, because I got a couple more I want to get through for the end to keep everybody on time who can't stay. The compensation agreement, this is what the listing agreement looks like. It's just showing you the two places. Pink is if you're doing broker to broker compensation. Yellow is if you're doing seller to broker compensation. And then there's nothing there if you're not going to do anything for any of them, you don't have to do anything. Okay. So I want to make sure this is what they're watching for. This is what that attorney, that wonderful, wonderful attorney is looking for. He wants to make sure that you're not saying that the seller must offer buyer agent compensation or buyer's agents won't show your home. Okay. That is their pet peeve. If you get caught saying that, they're gonna love to make an example of you. I feel it's okay to say in the current market conditions, I'd recommend that you make your home as easy to purchase for as many buyers as possible. Okay, that's a statement that I would start using. We want to make your home as easy to purchase for as many buyers as possible. And we know some are going to need either concession help or compensation help, one way or the other. So we want to make it easy. This is why I recommend it. Just move on. I'm telling you, in most listing agreements, you can just do it the way they just go through the process. They're not going to question you because they already like you. They already trust you. They just want the result, which is getting the home sold. You guys are great at doing the result. What they care about, what's in their bottom line pocket, not how they got to that number. Okay. The seller, I would just tell them what I'm doing. So for me personally, I prefer broker to broker compensation for right now. That may change as time goes on and the industry changes. I only like it because I like control. So I want to control it a little bit more and know, I don't want to have to fight people later or have to sue all these people. So I'd rather already have an agreement that I take the money out of the proceeds and then I know I can pay the person. So that's why I like it. In the big picture, it doesn't really matter. Does that make sense? Because there are going to be contracts and agreements. So that's why I say don't lose a listing over compensation doing it one way or the other. I like the broker to broker. That's the way we're comfortable. That's where we're doing it. We have control. That may change. I may tell you something different next year. For right now, that's what I like. So you don't actually have to have that compensation. The only thing conversation. The only thing we have to disclose is that commissions are negotiable. That's already in the contract. So I wouldn't focus on it and say, hey, I want to make sure. Circle, highlight, turn around. Okay. And the other thing I want you to realize is your commissions don't have to be negotiable. That's one of my other pet peeves. There's trainers out there saying, don't fill out your forms before you go out there because commissions are negotiable. Well, my commission may not be negotiable. As an industry, it's negotiable. Does that make sense? And it's important for the buyer or seller and buyer, either one of them, to know that as an industry, one person may charge more than another. That's perfectly fine. They should know that. That's why it's in the contract. Okay, but that doesn't mean yours has to be negotiable. So I'm not going to create a fight where a fight doesn't need to be had. Does that make sense? Okay. So our office policy, I want to make sure you guys understand this. Doesn't matter if it's seller to broker compensation or broker to broker compensation. If there's no compensation being requested or the compensation is less, we're going to credit that money back to the seller. We're not just keeping the extra money. And I'll explain to you why. That's what makes it truly negotiable. The whole crux of this argument is because, and it took me a long time to understand it, and I don't want to go on too long with it, but I do want you guys to realize this. Because everybody says, why was this price fixing? Why is this colluding? That's such BS. Until you think of it one way, and then you're like, okay, that makes sense. I get it. I know how we lost the whole case now. Okay. Now, NAR could have prevented us from getting to the case, but they didn't do that. But we lost it for this one thing. If you're a brand new agent out there, you don't have any overhead, you don't have any office, you don't have any expenses, you haven't done any marketing yet, you haven't done anything, it's your first house and you want the first house so bad you want to get it sold. And Paul's my friend. So Paul's my friend, he's the person willing to say, Walter, I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to be able to do it. Well, I do that more likely to be for less than him, do it for less than Diana would. Okay, that's right. Well, here's what we did as an industry. This is why they called it colluding. I said, Paul, look, I'll do it for you for free. $1,000, just pay my expenses. I just want to get the experience. You're a good friend. I just want to get this done, and I want to get it done. And I go by Diana's listing, and I say, Diana, I was willing to do this for free, but Paul's actually going to let me get $1,000. And you're like, nope, you have to take 15,000 because that's what I offer. You have to take the 15,000 because I'm not allowed to change it in the MLS. Yeah, but I don't even want 15,000. I mean, I was willing to do it for free. I don't care that you have no expenses, no overhead, no experience. You're going to get paid just the same as Darren back here with 25, 30 years worth of experience. Overhead, marketing, all of this stuff. Does that make sense? That's how we lost. That's why it's not BS. You can get caught up in all the other stuff, but we were forcing people to take more than they would have taken. So how does it become negotiable? It becomes negotiable because now I told Paul I'd take $1,000. Okay. Now I go to Diana's thing. She's like, all right, well, how much are you getting paid? Well, Paul's going to pay me $1,000. Hey, great, Mr. Seller. You were going to have to pay $15,000. Now you're only going to have to pay $1,000. You just saved $14,000 because Paul was willing to do it cheaper, and I still negotiated and got you the highest price possible. You still have my marketing. I still got it sold. You still have my representation, and you were able to win because Walter was willing to do it cheaper for his buddy Paul. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's why we lost. That's why it was colluding. That's why it's there. And that's what people don't understand. And some of the people I like to hear, I mean, I think it was crazy too, but when you really let that sink in, you'll understand we were forcing people to take more than they would have taken. I don't agree that it was complete colluding and all of those things, but that's why. So now we're stuck dealing with where we are. So that's why our office policy, if you get that, would be if the buyer's compensation is 2%, I agreed to do it for 2% for Paul, and somebody's paying 3%, then that's got to benefit somebody, doesn't it? It should benefit the seller, who was the one that was wrong. It was the one that started the lawsuit because he's saying I was forced to pay more than I needed to pay. So that's why I say as an office policy, I want that money to go back to the seller, because otherwise we're still charging him more than we're forcing him to pay more than he was required to pay. Okay.
But did you already have a listing agreement with a certain price?
We did, but we were forcing somebody to take more money. We can talk about that later too. We were forcing them to take more money than they would have. Okay. And so now they're just saying, tell us what you're willing to take. And you can get that. If you're willing to take 10%, go get 10%. They're not setting it and saying you can't do it. They're not saying somebody else can't pay it. They're just saying, determine what you'll work for, because so-and-so handyman will work way less for so-and-so general contractor. Does that make sense?
Maybe you decide on the front side.
On the front side. So once you get a grip with that, it's not as bad. You'll come around to things a little easier. But let's keep on for time's sake because we're already late. Here's another thing. So if the seller said, well, I thought I don't need to pay buyer's compensation. Well, you might not have to, but you need to be prepared that it's going to be requested. Okay. And you can still benefit because if the buyer's agent's compensation is less, I'm giving you that money back and you're coming out ahead. So last time I sold your house, it was 6%. This time it might be 5%, 4%, 3%, whatever it's going to be, depending on how it's set up. Because Paul may pay me directly, and you may not even know what I'm getting paid, and we don't even ask for it. That's not going to happen on a lot of transactions, but it's very possible to happen. I've had commercial buyers that pay me. Doesn't matter. We agree to a fee. They pay me. The seller doesn't even know. It doesn't even matter. Okay. All right. So we have an office website. I've done videos on it. I've showed it to you. I've sent it to you, and people still are like, do we have an office website? We have an office website for compensation. Please raise your hand if you know we have an office website for compensation. I just want to see everybody's hand if they have it. Okay, that's fine. You haven't looked at it. All right, and it's called compoffers.com. Okay, so save that, write it down, text it to yourself, do whatever. So you can go look your listing up there. It's going to be in about a day after you turn your listing paperwork in. So if you turn your listing paperwork in early, we're able to put it in early. Turn your listing paperwork in late, then you're not going to be there. And if you got a hot listing, it's already happened. People go to look up the hot listing and it's not in there. Does that make sense? We're updating this once a day. It's not real time. We're uploading it once a day. Updating it once a day. So they can look up your listing and see if there's buyer compensation, seller compensation, or no compensation. Do not put it where? In the MLS. Okay. I'm not standing behind you if you do it. I might be the one to turn you in. Okay. Just so you know. All right. Do not put it in showing time or any ancillary services. Do not put it in Facebook groups. So you are allowed, you'll see some other agents have posted it out on like other brokerages said, here's our forms or compensation or whatever website that they have. They may have other similar things. You're technically allowed to do it on your own site, not in a group where multiple brokers are talking, but on your own site. My preference is that we don't, because I don't really think it's consumer information. And what is our websites and our pages? It's all consumer facing. So my thought is, why do I want to get the consumer looking through all of our files and all the compensation and seeing what's going on there, whether it is offered or isn't offered? I just don't think it's needed. So that's why I'm not putting it on our pages. You just one-to-one, an agent asks you a question, you send it over. Over time, everybody will know where to go. Does that make sense? You guys do a lot of showings, you get lots of questions. So if all of you are saying this is where our compensation is, it will happen quicker, it'll be picked up, and it'll be picked up by the right people, instead of it being blasted around and put in groups and getting your customers pulled into what other people are doing.
You can put it on I can put it in my email.
You can put in your email signature if you want. Then it might go to some of your customers, though. Yeah, but you can email it directly to them. That's right. You could also put it in your signature, but remember, if it's in your signature, it's going to go to your customers. It's not a secret from your customers. So I'm not saying, I just don't think it's needed to go to customers, especially right now. I'm not saying to hide it or don't do it. I just don't think it's needed. So that's why I'm saying I wouldn't promote it that way, but it's not a terrible thing. No, because that's good. That's a great question. No, because that's part of what? The MLS. So it can't go in anything MLS or any realtor associated thing. Just anything that has to do with real estate, don't put it in there. You can individually email from your personal email. If it's coming from your personal email, that's fine. If it's coming from a real estate software, like an MLS type thing, where multiple brokers are members, don't put it in there. There are companies selling those services. There are local brokers joining those services. I don't understand how they're mixing it up, but just don't do it. Okay? Maybe things will change and there'll be some clarity that I just don't understand, but I've been through a lot of this so far. And right now, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
So is each individual office having their own website, or I saw something this morning where it was simply
Docs.re or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've all talked on there. So Jerry Westfall has one. Realty Pros has one. We have one. Adam Scammer's working on one. Exit Realty's working on one. There's probably other people that are working on some. Does that make sense?
office has one, so we have to go to each
You'd have
office.
to go to each office, but not every office is going to have them because it's extra work. Which thankfully, Jessica and I got together and she did all the back end work to get it made and get it put together. And then now we have Kai in the front desk updating it. So there's a lot of work into doing it, and a lot of smaller companies aren't going to be able to either A, make the website, B, pay for it, or keep it up to date. So not everyone's going to have one.
So there's not gonna be one centralized, it could be eventually, or is it?
No, so there's companies out there trying to do that. But no, it's not. That's the whole point. That would just be another version of the MLS. Does that make sense? That's my interpretation of it, because they're literally companies and local brokers trying to join that right now. In my opinion, that's just another version of the MLS, which they've specifically blatantly said you can't participate in. All right, we got a couple other things to run through real quick, guys. We have Caravan update. We are it's been very successful. It's a lot of work to do. Do we want to switch it to 1 month? Because if we don't get enough participation, then enough people don't want to do it. It's supposed to be for new listings each time. You don't have to have your listing on there to go, but in order to have a listing on there, you have to go. The point is to get 10, 12, 14 people to tour, make it look impressive, make it get price reductions. If we can't get 10 people each time, most people don't want to do it. If it's just 4 or 5 people or 3 people, they're not going to want to do it. So we're thinking of cutting it down to monthly, which means now if you cut it down to monthly, it's going to take 3 months to get to an area. Okay. So there'll be an Orman one every 3 months. There'll be a whatever, one every 3 months. We thought they'd be more effective if we could do them in shorter time periods, but we need participation. So what I have to do is look to you guys that have gotten price reductions, gotten things under contract, gotten benefits from it. Reel your friends in. You got to say, hey, I got a listing on there. Miriam, will you come to it? Hey, Candy, I got a listing on there. Will you come to it? It takes you guys, like emails and Facebook posts become numb. Okay, you have to invite your friends. I went and saw your listing, Diana. I need you to come see mine. Does that make sense? You got to bring each other. It's not all on us to do all the work. We're going to keep it going as long as we get participation. If we don't get participation, then we're going to have to cut it. So go ahead.
It seems like those of us who are going are seasoned agents.
Yeah. I think new agents should go, and I think one of the reasons sometimes they don't is because it's intimidating because they don't know anybody and they go in. So that's why it'd be great. You guys will get welcome arms. Any new agents, they're going to welcome you, bring you in, pull you in, hug you, say thank you for coming. We need you here. One last question, and we got to go on.
We don't have to stay 2 more.
2 days. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going tomorrow, but if I still want to.
2 now it's 2 days. Good point. That's a good point. They're typical. Yeah. Yeah.
And what if we just do 2 instead of 4 geographic areas, like north and south?
We can look at doing that too. So we'll take all these, we'll keep trying it to tweak it. So we want to try it. So keep your feedback coming. We want to make it successful. Keep inviting your friends. For timing, since we're over, we got to run on, but offline, get together on that. I'm going to just kind of breeze through some of these awards. Top agents for CMN are Kim Bell, Sandy, Sinceric, and I can't see that, Candy Schramm. So congratulations to them. Skip through that. Highest sales price was $860. I don't remember who the person is now. Who was $860? Anybody here? Well, if you're online, we appreciate it for highest sales price. Sorry about missing that. Here's our top 20% of the Daytona Beach Board of Realtors. So as usual, we have a big group. That's an impressive thing to make sure you're letting sellers know and so forth as well to get their home sold. Top individual commissions, we have Mike, Gianna, and Dave. Top in teams for commissions, we have a Shannon sales team, the Kathy team, and the Gagliardi group. Top sales for individuals, we have Lance, Gianna, and Janet. Top sales for teams, we have Shannon sales property team, the Kathy team, and the Gagliardi group. Top individual listings taken, we have the Travis Ford, Trina DeCandia, and Doug Garner. For teams, the Amanda Lobb team, the Kathy team, and the Gagliardi team. We have the Tortugas event coming up. If you have tickets, you already know about it. Get your people there. Remind your people. We do have a way for tickets to be picked up by the back booth now. If you're not going to hand them all out, they can come to we can give them their name in advance. They can show up to the back gate and get it picked up there. We have a Tony Robbins event for the office. It's not going to be Tony himself, obviously, but one of his speakers coming in. We had him come in a few years ago. Everybody, the people that attended really liked it. That'll be September 17th. So if you want to participate, get on that list. It'll be kind of like a lunch and learn, a little 2-hour motivational speech. September 19th to the 20th, we have Jared James. Excuse me. If anybody wants to go, we can buy group tickets. I plan on going. And I know there's a few other people planning on going. So if you want to go, let us collectively know. We'll buy the group tickets, get the benefit of the discount. And we may give away a ticket or two in between time based on the people that want to go.
17. What is the time?
10 to 11:30.
That's both meetings, so one is only going to be half an hour.
So the 17th is the Tony Robbins Performance Workshop. And that'll be the only thing that'll have there. And I think we can do it by Zoom as well. Is that, I'll get you more information.
There's an office right before.
Oh, this is the after meeting training like we normally do now. Sorry about that. You know how
Again, what's the time? Just half an hour?
it's so our normal meeting is 9 to 10, but we ran over this month and last month. So normally it's 9 to 10. Then afterwards, we've been doing a secondary training from 10 to 11:30. Does that make sense? So this is a secondary one to do. Jared James is in Orlando. It's going to be here. You can watch it here. Not Tony himself, but you'll be able to watch him here.
It's gonna be out.
You can also Zoom. You'll be able to watch the Zoom link too. Look, my brain's fried. I don't remember. I'll get back to you on it. Okay. Trying to get through for the next. We'll get back. It's good questions. I just don't. Kai set all the stuff up. Okay. It'll be watching it on the thing.
James is also coming in November. If anybody doesn't want to travel, the board's bringing it here locally.
Okay, great, good. That's good to know. Port Orange Family Days, if you can sign up for that probably. We're going to have to skip the pitch a listing, pitch a buyer. We're just too far behind on that. So we're going to take a quick break to use the restroom, do whatever. We're going to start the questions and answers afterwards. If you have any questions for Mike with the home warranty, you can get with him. So it's going to be about 5 to 10 minutes max. We'll get back here and we'll run through the questions and answers. Sorry for going late. I knew it was a lot, but I wanted to get it all in. I will restart this Zoom recording or this recording for the questions and answers if people online want to stay.